going to talk now to our international affairs editor, Armen, who joins us on the programme. So both sides now, Armen, commenting on those talks, and generally those comments, they kind of agreed with each other, at least, on what they'd agreed.
Yeah, and they also agreed on what they disagreed. So it was actually quite a wide-ranging discussion lasting more than an hour. They touched on the COVID response, for example, and cooperation in the field of nuclear energy. So it wasn't all about Ukraine. But of course, there was no disguising the differences on Ukraine. According to the Kremlin version of this meeting, I've been looking at various dispatches on the Russian news agencies, and it seems that President Putin emphasized the lack of response from the West collectively about these Russian demands for security guarantees, and he told Macron that the West had ignored Russia's concerns. Ignored was the word used in the phone call, according to the Russian news dispatches. To which President Macron said, this is from the Élysées version of the call. Macron urged Putin to, quote, respect the sovereignty of states, close quote. So really you've got a kind of dialogue of the deaf continuing, Stuart, with Macron saying effectively you have to respect the sovereignty of Ukraine, and Putin reiterating that how can you have the security of one state being guaranteed if you don't also take into account the security of the other states next to it. So it's really a conversation which doesn't really seem to be leading anywhere on the fundamental strategic issues. However, they did both agree, according to both versions of the call, that there needs to be continued discussions in the Normandy format on Ukraine. And of course, there will be another meeting in Berlin in 2 weeks in the Normandy 4.
Yeah, latest discussion, as you say, and it's been kind of part of Macron's strategy, really, hasn't it, to try and bring the two countries together during his presidency.
Well, that's right. I mean, I think he certainly raised some eyebrows in other European capitals by what some would have termed kind of solo diplomacy with Russia. Those pictures you can see there are, I think, from Macron's summer residence in Brégançon in the south of France in 2019. But he also welcomed Putin with a lot of pomp at the Versailles Palace in 2017, which was meant to be the start of a reset with Russia, trying to bring Russia into the European fold, essentially. And Macron's line at the first few years of his presidency was that Russia is fundamentally a European power and should see itself as such. But what we've seen over time is that those words haven't really changed the geopolitical reality, which is that Russia does have these fundamental interests when it comes to, how far it's willing to accept NATO enlargement, and no amount of nice summits or tea or whatever they drank on, the garden of Brégançon really changes that. And what we've seen also more recently, Stuart, is this sort of increased tension between Russia and France when it comes to geopolitical competition in Africa. And I think that's been an important part in, at least privately, French disillusionment with this possible engagement with Russia, because what we've seen in recent months and weeks even is a kind of apparent growth of Russian influence, I think it's fair to say, in Mali and Burkina Faso, and that is being seen in Paris as something that is happening at the expense of France's influence.
Armen, thanks very much. Armen, our international affairs editor.